Marmon. She is a former Miami Traveler magazine editor who ditched the office for the war. She became a solo traveler by accident and has been living abroad in Mexico for over 2 years now. Thank you so much, Shelly, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, um, so can you please share with us a little bit about your story? Like how come like you were in Miami, like working as a magazine editor, and then you ended up in Mexico, and then you've been in Mexico for over 2 years now, and you speak Spanish too. Like
Sí,
that's awesome.
sí, más o menos, sí. Yo hablo fluida Spanglish.
Okay, why you speak Spanish?
Yeah, I worked, a real job. It was a cool job because I was a travel magazine editor for Miami. And I did that until, like very abruptly, they closed the company down of magazines and print journalism. It's having a harder and harder time as more and more things go fully digital. And so, yeah, they just shut the company down, and I looked for a job for a while and I couldn't find one, which was weird because I have like 15 years of experience. So it was a little bit of a shock to not be able to find another job. But then I decided I was gonna have a fresh start and sell my apartment and move to Denver, and I had a whole vision. And then, randomly I met the guy buying my condo, and he was just like, I really like how you have this place decorated. It's beautiful. Can I just buy everything inside of it that you own? And I was like, yes. So now I had nothing. I was down to nothing. And, a friend who also wasn't working at the time and had a little savings, he was like, well, let's go travel. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's go to Croatia. And he's like, how about Mexico? I'm like, oh my God, but it's scary there. And, I don't think it's safe. Are you sure? He was like, yeah, let's try it out. And I was like, all right, well, here's the deal. I'll go to Mexico with you, but we have to keep traveling south, I really wanted to go to Buenos Aires and Patagonia. And he was like, okay, we can do that, but we'll start in Mexico. And I was like, all right, whatever. I wasn't very excited, but like most things where you have no expectations, it ended up being the best place ever. And so I came to Mexico in April 2018, and it's July 2020, and I'm still in Mexico.
Wow. I mean, as I told you before, to me, Mexico it's an amazing country. Like the landscape it has, the food, the people. And what city did you start traveling in? Like what city did you get to?
I started in Mexico City, and from there I went to Playa del Carmen and Tulum to live for a little bit, and then actually went to Guatemala for a month, and then I went back to Mexico because, yeah, Mexico is amazing. And I went back to Mexico City for a little bit, and then I traveled around a lot, maybe went to like 6 or 7 states over like 2 months. I ended up living in Oaxaca for a little bit. I always keep going back to Mexico City because it's Mexico City. And for the last year, I've been living in Mérida in the Yucatan.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. And also you start traveling with someone, and then now I guess that person is not traveling with you anymore. So I bet like you've been, have you been traveling most of the time on your own?
Yeah. Or? So we were together. I had like solo travel was not an option, which is again why, he's saying, let's go to Mexico. And I'm like, Croatia, it's like, I could have just went on my own, but like the idea of being a solo traveler just had never really kind of crossed my mind. It was always something you did with someone. I don't even know if I was scared. I mean, maybe deep down I was, but I didn't even think it was an option. Like I had never even thought about it to know that I was scared or not. It was just never something I was going to do. So that's why I compromised on Mexico. So yeah, after a couple months, he decided he was gonna take a job back in Miami. And by then I was very comfortable in Mexico and I loved Mexico very much. And so I decided to stay. And yeah, I pretty much traveled on my own. So I was on my own for it's been about 2 straight years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And well, I know that also you have a travel blog that is
Yeah.
Travel Mexico Solo, and then you also have a podcast. And I mean, you have so many plans like coming on. So how come like okay, you decided to, you know, I'm gonna stay in Mexico and I'm gonna be traveling solo. So how come this idea for to start a podcast, to start a blog, and what is what you want to share there? Or what is what we want to show about Mexico?
Yeah, I started working online. I had a cute little store that was selling dresses with pockets, just dresses with pockets. But so I was like, my goal was to try to figure out how to work full time online. So that's where I started with e-commerce. And then, you know, COVID hit and people were not really looking to buy dresses and all that kind of stuff. So I just finally started putting my travel pictures online and writing a little bit about travel more as a side thing to like keep myself occupied. And yeah, just started like my Instagram, people started paying attention to it, which was shocking to me because none of the pictures I took were for any purposes other than my own. So yeah, I just started kind of networking on social media. You know, Mexico in the US has a certain kind of reputation. And I just started getting a lot of comments like, I had no idea Mexico was this beautiful. You know, like, this is so cool to see this side of Mexico. And, you know, I kind of went back to that headspace that I was in when I was scared to even come to Mexico.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, that's so true. I've forgotten how different Mexico is to most Americans in their thoughts. So yeah, that's kind of, it's sort of taken on a new life of its own. And now it's a lot about sharing that this place is nothing like what you think it is. But then it's like, then that opens up a bigger topic of like, how many things are not the way you think they are.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like taken on a life of its own, but it started as a way to just kill time. But yeah, now I'm figuring out people are actually making money through blogs and people do blogging as a career. And so I'm going to figure it out.
You will. And that's great that you're doing that. I mean, that sharing that, you know, Mexico is not probably as all the news say they are. And yeah, of course, like every country, there are dangerous parts, but that doesn't mean that the entire country is like that.
Yeah, I always tell people that too. Like, I'm from South Florida and I lived like between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and I'm always like, you know, there are places in Miami that are pretty rough and scary that you don't go to, and the same with Fort Lauderdale. So that's like 2 cities like back to back. You're from Chicago, I know, you know there's like, you know, there's places that are unfortunately super dangerous and you just don't go to them, but you know what they are and you know which ones to avoid. And you know, every place has good and bad, but I've just realized, you know, I think a lot of Americans, you have to believe the place you live is safe. You have to believe the US is safe if you live in the US, because otherwise you're going to go crazy, you know, thinking too much. So it's easy to think like these other places are not safe, but I'm safe, you know, and we all do that wherever we go, because, you know, you need to just turn your thoughts off sometimes and be like, no, I'm safe, I'm good, I'm going to have a good day, you know? So I understand it, but yeah, you know, we have to just experience things for ourselves sometimes.
Definitely. And yeah, I mean, and sometimes I also think that people think that because they don't have the right information, or they just don't know. And I think that's awesome that you, as an American, I mean, you've been living there for 2 years, as a woman as well, traveling solo. You are like showing that, opening up that new world for other people. Like, hey, like I'm here and I'm doing all this, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's safe. Is of course there are parts you need to avoid, but I mean, if I can do it, you can. So I think
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well,
Well, yeah, thank you. It's been fun, and this country is so amazing, so it's easy to show how beautiful it is. I always tell people that they're like, photographers will message me like, what are you using? I didn't bring the right lens on my Mexico trip. And I'm like, I have an iPhone 8. I think it's like you guys are up to like 11 now or something. Like, I have an old iPhone. It's just that Mexico is actually gorgeous.
It is, yeah, no, definitely, definitely. And like, what are your favorite parts in Mexico? Like the ones that you have visited. I know this is kind of like a difficult question,
It
but
is and it isn't. Like, for sure, my favorite state is Oaxaca. Universe, if you can hear me, I'm moving back to Oaxaca in 2021. Pandemic or not, I don't care.
let's put it into existence.
Yeah, Oaxaca is my favorite state. I don't know if I like the city or the beaches more. It's hard to say. Like, I grew up in South Florida, so when a beach is not nearby, I just don't know what to do with myself. So I actually live in the city and on the beach in Oaxaca. And then, but my favorite like city to look at is Guanajuato. It's so beautiful there. It's almost like walking around in a painting. Like, a lot of the older, like, well-preserved colonial cities in Mexico, they follow a color scheme. It's usually 2 colors. But Guanajuato, like, they're allowed to paint any color that they want. It's like a rainbow there. And with the same beautiful old colonial architecture, all the beautiful churches. There's like little winding streets. It's in a valley, so some of the streets go like up the mountain, but there are these little curvy streets, like only one car can drive at a time. It's like, it looks like something, it's like straight out of Europe, but more fun because it's Mexico. And what other place? There's a freshwater lagoon here in the Yucatan in a city called Bacalar. They call it the Maldives of Mexico because the water is like crystal clear blue.
That's one of my favorite places.
I love it there. Yeah, I've been twice. But then the real favorite is Mexico City.
Oh, really? Okay.
I love Mexico City so much. I mean, it's a big city and you have to, you can only be there for a certain amount of time before you go insane.
Yeah, that's I've been to Mexico several times, and I still haven't gone to Mexico City because I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's like I feel that it's too much, like too much traffic, too many people. And I'm still like, if you ever get to record an episode about Mexico City, I would listen to it.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little hesitant to go visit.
No, you should not be. I mean, there's like 6 really amazing neighborhoods. So if it's definitely overwhelming. It's, like, I think it's the biggest city in the Americas continent or something like that. If not, it's got to be like the top 3 or 4. But, yeah, I should write a blog about that because it's overwhelming. But there's, a couple neighborhoods you'd want to like definitely explore over some others. So you can break it down pretty easily too.
Okay. So, well, thank you. And then, so let's talk about your podcast. Like now, like 100%. Like, what is what is that you're trying to share, like with your episode, with your podcast, and what?
So I think there's only my 5th episode, I guess, is going to come in a few days. And so far, what I've been doing with the podcast is kind of just like putting a lot of my blogging content into audio form. But so far I have episodes on how to eat, how to overcome like fear of eating alone. which like I never realized was such a big fear for a lot of people. I think it really depends. Like, I think, I'm from like more of a livelier, more city type area in South Florida, and like eating alone's not that weird. And I know, like, I think if you're from a bigger city, eating alone's not super weird, but I guess, for everyone else, it's not really common that you do. So yeah, I did an episode about, like 5 steps to like work your way up to actually being able to comfortably and confidently eat alone. I have another, yeah. It's like baby steps. You do it in baby steps. But, I'm very interested in just psychology for my own self and my own life. I don't know, it's what fascinates me the most as a topic in the world. So yeah, I started reading a lot about exposure. They call it exposure therapy. And it's like when you're, let's say, afraid of, I don't know, birds, and they get you over your fear by bringing you around birds, so I try to kind of take people through like mental exercises. Like first, I thought back to being a really young child and how being alone was a punishment. It's like when you're a little kid and you're bad, it's like, well, go sit in the corner by yourself or go to your room by yourself. And I think like a lot of that stuff is just like really deeply ingrained in our psyche and we don't really know. So just right off the bat, you have to kind of change your mindset. Like, this isn't a punishment. This is what I want to do. And then, and I also think sometimes we're unconsciously like looking at another person eating alone, say, and being like, oh, how sad, and changing that inner dialogue to like, oh my God, look at this empowered person. They get to pick the restaurant they want. They get to like, they don't have to share their food. Like, thinking of all the amazing things that like they're getting that I'm not getting. And maybe you're not hating your own dining experience, but it's like just spinning things in a little more of like a positive direction. So a lot of like mindset shifts, and then starting visualizing yourself eating where you want, even down to like putting on the outfit you want to put on in your head, and then thinking about your route to get there, and just when you're on your way, noticing like, oh, what a beautiful plant, and like putting yourself in a happier state of mind, or putting on your headphones and listening to your favorite songs, or and then just, starting, let's say, like at a cafe, and saying, like, giving tips. Like, a lot of people prefer outdoor dining because they have the distraction of people watching, and it makes them feel like less alone, or, and then working up. And then I talk about how I actually did the ultimate solo dining experience. I did it was in Oaxaca, and it was like a chef's tasting like a 12-course meal. And I went by myself, and working up to to full dining alone.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have that one, and then as a Mexico blogger, you definitely have to have the Is Mexico Safe blog.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
So I did one about my own it's not really about is Mexico safe, because I don't think that question has an answer. Like, I think people want an official answer, and like that just doesn't exist. I mean, it doesn't exist for anywhere. It's safe if nothing bad happens to you. It's unsafe if something, bad happens to you. So yeah, I don't think there's an answer, but it's about how I think I have stayed safe in Mexico. And then I have another friend who's a Mexico travel blogger. So it's like these 2 back-to-back episodes of 2 people's opinions on Mexico safety, Mexico travel safety. And we're both solo female travelers in Mexico. So yeah, the podcast is a little bit of a mix. A lot of solo travel stuff, a lot of Mexico travel stuff, and then some interesting travel stories. I'm interviewing tomorrow, actually, this woman who learns the language of every country before she goes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so she speaks like 12 languages now, and so yeah, just like what I find to at least be super interesting travel stories too.
Wow, that's awesome. And so what's the name of your podcast? Where can people find the name of your podcast and your Instagram and your blog? I will put it in the description. anyway?
So the podcast is called Dream to Destination, and it's all about like turning your dream of solo travel or travel into your destination of where you want to go. And it's on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Google, Breaker, Stitcher, a lot of places. And then my blog is travelmexicosolo.com, and all my social medias are at travelmexicosolo.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing. And I mean, I'm looking forward to listen to that episode with the women that speaks 12 languages, and also like the dining alone part. Like, that never occurred to me that that could be a thing. I never thought about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it just depends. Like, I have found it's kind of mixed. I feel like 25% of people I've talked to, they're like, I didn't know that was weird. I personally didn't know it was weird, but it's just so many questions I would get. You know, it's like, I don't know if I could eat by myself. Like, of course, the first thing is like your general safety. Like, that's always the number one question. I think it's for any female travel blogger, but like Mexico especially. And then like the next one was like eating alone. And again, like it wasn't weird to me, so I didn't know. But yeah, there's a real fear. I think it has a really long name, like 20 letters. It's something like solomangiarophobia, something like that. Solomangiarophobia. But it's like a real fear of eating. It's not the fear of eating, but it's the fear that you're being judged really by other people. And it gives you so much anxiety that you probably just won't do it.
Wow. Okay. Well, it makes sense. I mean, if you put it into this perspective, yeah. Okay. Wow, Shirley, thank you so much for everything you shared with us. Is there any closing thought that you would like to add?
Yeah. I mean, you know, come to Mexico and check it out for yourself. There's every single thing here. There's like mountains, forests, deserts, beaches, cities, tacos. You can have everything here. It's an amazing country. I've been to half of the states so far, and the other half is coming. Would have been coming sooner, but Corona.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just like can't say enough about it. I'm constantly shocked by how much I love it, and yeah, I love sharing it with people, and I love when people come here and their minds are changed. So I'm just all about promoting how wonderful this country is and how empowering solo travel is.
It is, definitely it is. Well, thank you so much.